I haven't done one of these since Emoji Movie. You know, if you want to know where I've been for the last month, it's, I've been contemplating life after seeing such a terrifying, horrific, nah, I'm just kidding. There just hasn't been any big movies out, and there hasn't been anything that I've thought is worth talking about. But the movie It just came out. It, Stephen King's It, featuring Pennywise the Clown and all those 50s kids, except this isn't the 50s now, it's the 80s. I've never seen the miniseries, I've never read the book, so I'm coming into this completely fresh. I didn't even watch the trailer, which I don't know if that was just me being salty. I think I was annoyed that it became apparently the most viewed trailer of all time. Basically, nothing about this sparked my interest, and I figured, wow, this is going to be a movie that makes a ton of money, and but it's going to get horrific reviews. It's not going to be well received at all. The review embargo wasn't lifted until Tuesday, so I was really surprised that it was this well received. And then I was thinking, I don't know about this. I'm going to go see it, and no, I was surprised. I actually enjoyed the movie a lot. Since I never read the book or miniseries, I don't know anything about this story. I know that there's a second half to it. I know there's stuff about them being adults. I know that there's way more explanation as to what happened in the earlier scenes, which is in this film. So we don't get everything right away, but you kind of don't need it. I wish to an extent that they'd explain the rules of the clown, because sometimes he attacks, but sometimes he doesn't. And you kind of get this idea of, oh, he only attacks those who are truly fearful, but I don't know, it just seems a little confusing to me, but it doesn't really matter. I thought the story was very well paced. I thought at times that there was probably way too many character stories going on, and then some of them get introduced and then straight up ignored for the rest of the movie. Like the kid who works at the sheep farm and the kid who's Jewish in particular. Those two storylines, they kind of start and then they sort of just go away for the rest of the movie. And I mean, they're in the movie, but they hardly are there, but we'll get to that later. The third act was very, kind of seemed almost out of nowhere. You know, they're in the house, they start fighting the thing, and then they all run out, and then they have a fight, which, you know, they have a fight and then they have to go and mope and dope. You know, they do that classic movie trope, story trope, I guess. And I know it's probably in the book, but it just seemed a little unnecessary. Like, we're already in the house, why can't we hurry things along? This movie could have probably easily been an hour 45 or hour 50, and instead we got 2 hours and 15 minutes out of this, which it really did feel like it was dragging towards the end. That whole third act, while it's a good third act, there's quite a hill to climb before we actually get to it. I kind of thought the jump scares would be a little more tied to the plot and everything. Everybody kind of experiences one because they're all part of the group and they all experience one. It kind of makes sense. But then the rest of the movie, it just does the same beat over and over again. You kind of see exactly where every jump scare's going to happen at. Oh, we're gonna have a still static shot of a dark room, hold it there for many seconds, and then boom, music crashes and the thing attacks. I thought the kid playing Bill was great. He was a great main protagonist. He really showed the fear of losing, you know, a brother and then having to deal with that. The one playing Beverly, the girl playing her, was probably the best of all of them, and I could probably see her having a huge career in the future. She really, for what that storyline and that character needs, she did an excellent job. Probably the best part of the whole movie. Her whole storyline and everything. All the other kids do great. I mean, like I said before, the two kids, which are named Mike and Stan, they kind of just disappear. Finn Wolfhard plays Richie, who's just this really obnoxious jokester who, at the beginning of the movie, you know, right away they're talking about dicks and such, and I'm like, I know these kids are 13, but man, I don't ever remember talking about dicks that much at 13. They actually do act like kids the rest of the movie. It's just that opening scene really does kind of, it tricked me for a second. I was like, what are we doing here? But then, oh, okay, so they don't constantly talk about dicks. It's really only that one character. It's Finn Wolfhard, and he is funny. He's definitely that kind of kid that I think everybody knows, who just talks too much and won't shut up, and he's always saying really sexual and really annoying jokes, and I bought it. He was absolutely wonderful. But yeah, Mike and Stan's characters, I feel like they got a really undeserving part in this movie. I think that they could have been expanded a little bit more, but then again, you got so many storylines to jumble and so many characters to jumble to the point where at the beginning of the movie you begin to question if they're even going to be able to do this. And they do it by just cutting out the other characters entirely. They just sort of ignore them, which that's a sacrifice you gotta make. If you're gonna have that many characters in the movie, some of them are just gonna get overshadowed. I thought the effects were really good. I don't know to what extent that there was practical effects and computer generated effects, but they were really I thought they were all excellent, and I couldn't even really tell at times. You can kind of tell, but it's just that sort of beautiful computer imagery it just looks so good that even though you know it's not real, you buy it. It works for the film. I thought it was all really good. Some of the best visual effects I've seen this year, honestly. To me, I would go as far as to nominate this for an Academy Award, because the effects are good. This movie just has the look of the 80s, and I bought it. I thought it looked exactly what it should look like. Had really good lighting, had, you know, dark moments. The color tones of the movie were great. Everything felt spot on. There's a couple scenes where it's really out there and I'm like, okay, so this movie is really trying to be a kid's movie with a lot of scary moments, you know, sort of something like Poltergeist or Gremlins, but not as funny. It's not trying to be a funny movie, even though I found the clown funny, but I know some people are terrified of clowns. I'm personally not. But yeah, there's some weird things, like there's this whole little joke about New Kids on the Block, and there's even a scene where, I can't explain it, but there's a poster of it, and they do zoom-ins of their heads, and they're playing some like music in the background, and it's just a really obnoxiously edited scene. And then there's that rock fight, which is playing some heavy metal music, and there's just slow-mode scenes, and it's really obnoxious, but to me, it didn't mess up the tone of the movie. You know, a kid's movie, or not even really a kid's movie, but sort of your introduction from kids' movies to horror movies. You know, a great way for kids to get introduced to horror movies. It's just unfortunate that the movie's rated R, so a lot of kids can't even see the movie. So I wouldn't call it a gory movie. I would say it's just more of a creepy movie, and there's just a lot of F-bombs, and that's really the only reason it's rated R, I think, is because there's a lot of F-bombs, and there's a lot of serious themes in the movie that I think is good for a kid to watch. So there you go, there's my review, me recommending an R-rated movie to kids. You know exactly what it felt like was the movie Krampus that came out a few years ago. Effects-wise and the tone-wise, it wasn't as funny as Krampus was trying to be, but it had that same kind of tone. I hope kids do see this movie, because it's fine. I wouldn't say an 8-year-old should see it, but 13-year-old, yeah, go see it. It's great.